Hey everybody, good evening, welcome back. And no, we're not going to be cooking tonight, but what we're going to do is we are going to get a brisket prepped and put it on bright and early in the morning. I usually do like just time lapse through this part of the video, but today I'm not going to. Real quick, this is going to be a two-part video. It's going to be titled the same thing, but one will be part one will be part two. Part one of my video is going to be me prepping up this brisket and how I do it. Now, this might be a longer video, for one. And for two, if you had to put brisket trimming from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being amazing and 1 being the, I don't know, Green Bay Packers, I'd put myself somewhere in between the 5 to 3 range. I did get this technique I'm going to follow, I did get from a friend of mine that I never met, Darren. Check him out over at Ash Kickin' Barbecue. Let's try to get him to 1,000 subscribers. But about a year or so ago, I got like the Cosmos sample pack and stuff, and it came with a bunch of like all his rubs, and he sent me some tips, pretty much step-by-step instructions on how to do it. But they were really good, and I have followed them to a T, and I've gotten really good results in my personal opinion, and I've cooked brisket for other people too, and they haven't really complained. They may have been a bit intoxicated, but they really haven't complained. So, without further ado, got some things in front of me. Obviously, we got a brisket. We have my slicing knife. I did watch Ash Kickin' Barbecue's video the other week on brisket, which I've been getting on him for a while to do a brisket video. But he actually used this to trim his brisket, and I'm going to try it out tonight too. Now, disclaimer, this is a very sharp knife, and I also have cut a fingertip off with this before, cutting a tri-tip on a cutting board that wasn't quite secured. It was just really loose. It was just a cutting board on a countertop, and I went and I cut and cut, just to tip my finger off, but it grew back. And then we got this is a paring knife, I believe, nice and flexible. It's a very sharp knife. I think it works really good for brisket. So we're going to try both of them. And then after we get it all trimmed up, we're going to inject it. The injection we're going to use, you guys have seen me use this before, the Cosmos Q Reserve Blend Brisket Injection. I love this stuff in brisket. It is like amazing in brisket, and I don't know if I'll ever not use it. Unless, of course, I'm doing like a complete like Texas-style brisket, just salt and pepper. But we're going to inject it with this. And then we're going to go on with 3 rubs. Those rubs being the first coat we're going to go on is with this Suckle Busters. Say it with me. Hoochie Mama. We're going to go on nice and light with that. Then we're going to go on really heavy with the Suckle Busters Texas brisket rub. I love this stuff. I have two full shakers of it. It's probably my favorite beef rub. It's good on everything. Good on everything beef. I really like this on a good ribeye, and of course I like it on a brisket. And then when we're all done, we're going to go on medium coat just to kind of get a good bark with this Suckle Busters SPG. So I'm going to sign off real quick. I'm going to get this brisket out of the package, and we'll see you in a minute. Alrighty, we are back. I got it out of the package. The first thing I did before I even put this thing back down on the cutting board was take a microfiber rag. When you're using, when you have a big cut of meat, a microfiber rag underneath cutting board works perfectly fine. If it's not a heavy cut of meat and you're still wanting to trim it, maybe like a rack of ribs, I would recommend just putting a washcloth under there. Second thing I did was took some paper towel, patted both sides dry. I don't rinse meat off, especially like beef or pork. I really don't ever rinse off. Chicken maybe sometimes, but not beef. So let's get to trimming. This is the fat cap side, and this is a non-fat cap side. Typically I'd be wearing a pair of gloves, but I'm all out of cooking gloves, and if you guys or girls haven't noticed, it's kind of hard to find gloves nowadays with the Rona going around. I don't ever do this the same way. I'm nowhere near good enough to have a really good technique. All I know is that if you feel the fat, and the fat's hard, like this right here, I think let's just start right here. I would recommend always cutting away from yourself, or what I like to do is kind of put my hand and prop the brisket up, and just kind of start carving away. So we're going to keep working on this. See a nice big chunk of fat. Another thing that's really handy, you can't see it, but right here to the left of me is a garbage can. Either that or just get a tray and put it all on a tray. So let's keep on working on this cut right here. So now when you're starting to get a little more into the meat, what I kind of like to do too is I kind of just like to cut straight down on this thing. Whoops. Try not to butcher my brisket. There we go. I kind of just like to get right in there and try to get this as good as possible. You can kind of see the farther you get on this, the softer it starts to feel. That's how I kind of gauge on when to stop cutting this part. I'm gonna call that good. And then I'm gonna try to clean some of this fat on up here, even though it's soft fat. It's not really gonna do much when it comes to bark. So, and I think with this brisket, usually a rule that I use when I do brisket, if I do hot and fast brisket, I cook with the fat cap down to kind of have the fat cap protect the meat from the heat source. But tomorrow we're not going to be doing hot and fast. We're going to be doing, 250 to 275 to whole cook. So the fat cap is going to be up tomorrow. Okay, I'm actually going to call this side good. So let's go ahead and trim this fat cap side up. But anyways, what I'm going to do first is you can kind of see we got a layer of fat kind of just running right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my knife. I'm going to kind of sort of try to, get this thing as straight as I can and just make an imaginary line right down it. And I'm going to get rid of it. Just keep on trimming here on the fat cap side. All right, well, we're going to keep trimming away here on the fat cap side. And for some of you more experienced brisket trimmers, obviously feel free to drop me some pointers. But what I go off of is, I will say probably 10 to 12 briskets ago, I really started to get the technique down when it comes to getting the flavor I wanted and the kind of cut I wanted. When I first started doing this, I would never get good flavor. The cut would always be rough. Part of the reason why, because I used to cut these wrong. But ever since I started doing injections, and to be honest with you, as long as you got a couple decent rubs, or even if you make like just a homemade like SPG, you get pretty good results. And I really think that Cosmos, that injection on there really takes brisket to another level. But I used to... I bought in cases of prime brisket before from a local store here, actually about 30 minutes to the south-ish in Iowa. It's this local chain called Fairway, and I can get prime grade brisket there, but the only way I can get it is getting it by the case. Well, I have a baby, which, that's not the reason why, but I'll have a girlfriend who just was not for me buying prime grade brisket by the case. She doesn't live here anymore. No, I'm just kidding. She's laughing in the background right now. At least I hope that's her. But I honestly think like when you get the prime grade brisket, it's a little easier to trim. So to me, like to really kind of try to, well, doesn't get corny, to kind of hone in on my cooking, I like to try to find choice. Choice is really easy to find, but sometimes, I used to be really picky on the choice briskets I'd go to buy. Like, if there were 10 of them, I'd pick them all up. I'd feel them. I'd toss them around, see how hard the fat was, see how much fat I could see through it. But now it's just like, hey, if there's 2 briskets at a store, which this time there was a 20-pound and a 16-pound, I'm like, I'm not buying a 20-pound brisket. I'm going to buy a 16-pound brisket. But I'm not really as picky as I used to be when it comes to picking out brisket. Just because I kind of want to sort of, I do. I just want to keep getting better at cooking these, and yeah, I don't know. That was a little personal, I think, but I don't know. A lot of the times too, I call it quits on a brisket when I feel like I've been here for far too long trimming a brisket. I'm not doing this for competition. I'm doing this strictly just for serving. And you know what? If it gets a cool smoke ring on it when I try to get my photos or my thumbnail for my video, that's it's all worth it. So I think I'm going to call this about good. I might do a little more trimming off camera. But yeah, I'm going to pick back up when we got this to the next step. So we'll see you then. Alrighty, we are back, and it is time for the next step. I would highly suggest, first off, getting yourself a good heavy-duty disposable aluminum pan. The brisket is going to sit in this pan until it is time to cook. We're going to inject. You can see I got my Cosmos Q shaker at the bottom of it here, shaker bottle or whatever you want to call it. The injection we're using is the Cosmos Q Reserve Blend. Directions for this is 2 cups of liquid to 1/3 cup injection. I do 1 cup beef consomme, 1 cup water, 1/3 injection, shake it up. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and inject. But a useful tip for this is this can kind of get messy, because sometimes you'll go in and you'll inject here, and it'll squirt out at you here, like right here. So what you want to do, I would highly suggest, is getting a smock, or getting an apron, sorry. And you can see the apron I got is the Pits and Spits apron. Shout out to Pits and Spits, but I'm not cooking on the Pits and Spits tomorrow. I'm going to be cooking on that Masterbuilt gravity fed, because that thing is just, it's pretty cool. But let's go ahead and inject. Fill your syringe up, obviously. This is the first time I'm using this syringe. I got it right off of Cosmos Q. We're going to do this. We're going to do this in like a 1x1 pattern. You see all this right here, all that injection. I'm going to use pretty much all that, because I believe that there's one batch on the back of the bag says you can do up to 14 pounds of beef. So this is probably a little less than 14 pounds, but we're still going to do it. So we're going to inject with the grain. You can see the grain runs this way. I believe that's how I always do it, but not positive. So just start here, and we're going to do a 1x1 pattern. And you can kind of see it shooting out, I think, but that's kind of the, yeah, there it goes, kind of the mess. But it's barbecue. And you should be able to see this brisket start to balloon up. It's kind of like, you can really notice it in chicken. I don't really notice it a whole lot in brisket when you're injecting it, but like chicken, I compare it to like Popeye having his spinach. It's like you inject the chicken up and then all of a sudden it's a chicken on steroids is what it looks like. Again, I don't really have a rhyme or a reason for this. I just kind of go in, inject all over the place. We're going to do both sides. We're going to let this brisket sit after I inject it, probably for about a half an hour before I put the rub on. But yeah, I will finish injecting up this side, and then I will pick back up when we're on the other side. All right, let's go ahead and inject the fat cap side. I will say that this injector, for being what it is just it's a cheap injector. It works pretty good, and it can hold quite a bit of fluid. And when I say 1x1, you can kind of probably notice that I'm not in a 1x1. For one, that's a lot of ones, but for one, math is hard. And for two, as long as it's getting in the brisket, that's really about all I'm concerned about. Oh, that's some fat there. You can kind of sort of see this thing balloon up. Whoa! Boy! That's what I'm talking about there, folks. And then, you know, on the back of his instructions it says 2 cups liquid. You know, you could use beer. Honestly, you could just use water, and I'm sure it would still be fine. I used to use beef broth, as well as I used to use beef broth for my wrapping liquid. And I want to say it might have been Darren over at Ash Creek Barbecue suggested to use the consomme. Or I saw Harry Sue do it. I don't remember. Either or, both guys are great at barbecue. But I like the consomme. So like the consomme I use for my wrapping liquid, use it for my injection liquid, and I also use it for my spritzing liquid. Because when I do a spritz on this, which I will be, it'll be a half mixture of beef consomme and water is what I use for my spritz. So besides that, this brisket is about good and done. I might be able to get one more out of here. That's gonna be about it. And yeah, I think I'll just quick use the rest of this, and I will pick back up when I'm rubbing this thing down. So we'll see you then. Alrighty, this has been sitting for about 25-30 minutes. I did take some of the injection that was in the bottom of the pan, re-inject it, and then I poured some of it out. There wasn't much in there, to be honest with you. But now it's time to rub this thing down. And like I said, the first coat we're going to go on with is this Suckle Busters. Say it with me again, Hoochie Mama. And we're going to go on pretty, you know, light to medium of this, I guess. Again, this was a suggestion I got from, well, actually not really a suggestion, I just saw that he used it, but from Darren over at Ash Kickin'. Did I mention you guys should probably subscribe to his channel too? FYI, this is my opinion. I do not think you could overseason a big cut of meat like this. So you might ask yourself, or you might say like, "Holy cow, he's going on heavy." But to me, trial and error. I've never once overseasoned a brisket or Boston butt. So now that that's on, I'm just gonna kind of pat it in, and now we're gonna go on very heavy with this Suckle Busters Texas brisket rub. Again, my favorite stuff. Referring to myself in the third person now. I'm going to go ahead and do the non-fat cap side first, just because this is, oof, it's a good rub. Alright, that's going to be about good for me. This thing's all rubbed down. What I'm going to go ahead and do is it's going to go in the fridge overnight, uncovered, and it's just going to kind of sit in the rub and the injection, and just kind of, I guess, do just like an overnight marinade. So that way, tomorrow morning when I wake up, all I have to do is start the grill up, and I can just take this right out of the fridge, put it right on the smoker, and this should make for a very good brisket tomorrow. Yeah, that's about all I got. You guys and girls have a good night, and we'll see you next time.